Aha! Okay, I did it again. Hello, and welcome to the Self-Publishing Roundtable, episode 83B or something. This is Michelle again, and I'm coming to you today without a face. Thank you very much. We are here with Colin Barnes, or Colin F. Barnes. He is the nicest person ever. I'm just going to let you know. And we're going to talk to him about a bunch of different books, but he is the author of Code Breakers, Alpha, what was the second one? Beta, Delta, and then we're going to go from there. So, um, he is just the nicest, and he's so successful, and we are going to chat with him about what it is like the minute you start writing. So that's what I'm super excited that he's here. So, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having on. I really appreciate that.
All right, where do you want to start? Why am I not successful? That's what I do, like at night by myself.
Mhm. Well, to be honest, I think even when people do start to make it, you're probably still thinking, why am I not more successful?
Right,
So,
right.
yeah, it's always, I don't know, it's the comparison thing that's really hard. You know, like when I first started out, the group of people I was in, we was all kind of on the same level, and it felt kind of cool because we were all moving forward and doing things. And then as soon as you start networking with some more successful people, it kind of diminishes your own things. You think, oh, why am I not at their level? And then eventually you get to their level, and then you'll go up into the next level of networking of people, and you think, well, I should be up there, or I want to be up there. You know, so yeah, the term success is kind of difficult.
Yeah.
So one thing I would say is never say you're successful or not successful, but how far are you along on your goals? You know, so maybe set some goals, set some targets, and kind of judge yourself that way. I think rather than comparing yourself to others, because it's difficult, you know, because what's successful to one person isn't going to be successful to another.
Yeah, and it's exhausting to constantly feel like you're behind all the time. Because being on this show, I get to watch people who are super successful all the time, and I have days where I'm like, this is never going to work. And then I'm like, wherever I am on my journey is where I am. And as long as I keep going forward, then I'll get somewhere eventually.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I think as long as you move forward, you're fine. Um, the only thing we can manipulate and we can control is our production. You know,
Right.
in terms of the frequency of the production and the quality of the production, and the amount of hours that we market. But even then, there's only so many marketing things that work. So it's all about production. And other than that, you can't really control anything. So you might get some authors who say, oh, you can guarantee to get X amount of money if you do A, B, and C. And that's not true,
Right.
because I've done experiments where I've written books and I've had them packaged so they look exactly like something that's been mega successful, and I've put them out at the same time as someone else who's done something very similar, and theirs will go crazy and mine will just flop, and vice versa. You know, there's
Right.
been other things where I've just put them out not expecting anything, and they've gone crazy on their own. For the longest time, I didn't believe that you could put a book out and it would just start selling on its own, because that was never my experience to begin with. I'd put books out and it would be crickets. It's like, where's my sales? You know, there's all these people saying, oh, you just upload it and you get 1 billion sales. I was putting things up and it was just like, wow, it's zero again for the 75th day in a row.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
Right.
And it's like, you know, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And the truth is I wasn't doing anything wrong, other than perhaps I wasn't maybe, you know, aiming at the market right, or I just wasn't giving myself enough time.
Right.
And so yeah, so I'd say it's, yeah, set yourself some goals, and but production goals, not income goals, because that's the big
That,
mistake.
yes, I did that at first. And it was just ridiculous because there was no way. There's no way. It's not like I used to do manual labor for my husband's mother-in-law, and so you get a box of things and you make them and you turn it in and you get money. That's not how this works at all.
No, no, exactly. Yeah, you could struggle and work for a year and earn nothing, or you could bang out a story in a week, put it out, and you make loads of money.
Yes.
So yeah, the income you can't control. It's a product of your production plus 1 billion and 1 random things that nobody knows.
Right.
Even publishers don't have a clue. Um, you know, we can only look at examples and perhaps like grope at some things and say, okay, this particular trend is hot, so the chances are higher.
Right.
But again, there's still no guarantees.
It's still a chance, yeah.
Yeah, it's still a chance. So it's a case of just building from one reader at a time, and that's kind of how I started. So if I give you a very sort of quick rundown of kind of how I got going,
Yes,
uh,
please. Yes.
is that the first 2 years I kind of set up a small press because I really liked anthologies and I really enjoyed working with other writers.
Hmm.
And I was in a couple of writing groups, and these people really helped bring my writing along. I won't bore you with my writing journey up until then, but so from that point onwards, it was like, okay, my skills are up to scratch, hopefully. Um, what can we do to get this work out there? And I was never really a fan of the whole submit to agents, wait a decade,
Hmm.
grow old, and then die, and then not have anything happen. I was like, well, life's too short for that.
You don't like that plan?
No, something about it puts me off. Um, so this was kind of like 2010, 2011. So it's just as the Kindle stuff was really starting to kick on.
Hmm.
And I said to all my other writer friends, like, why don't we just do an anthology and put some work out, try and get things going. And that's how it started. And for the first 2 years, that's what I was doing, like anthologies, short stories, just random stuff. And I didn't really have a grip on the market. I wasn't analysing trends. I wasn't looking at what people wanted. Um, and of course, nothing sold. And so for 3 years, I was basically putting money into this as a business, making zero profit.
Hmm.
So I only really made profit, I think, at the end of 2012, which was after I put out the first Codebreakers book.
Were you
But
shocked, or were you like, I worked really hard for this. Thank you very much. I'm gonna go take a bath now. Or were you like, what is going on? What did I do?
yeah, well, it's I don't know, because it wasn't like a light switch. It wasn't like one day there was nothing and then the next day there was lots of things. It was a really
Oh, okay.
small climb,
Okay.
So it was like going from minus money, to break even money to, oh, there's a couple of pounds, I can go and buy a pint or I get a
Right, right.
pizza. It was a really small gradual arc. Like if you was to see it plotted on a chart, it was a very narrow upward trend
Okay.
after a downward trend for 3 years.
I like that. It kind of feels like if that's the way mine's going, then I'm on the very first part where it starts to climb up. Um, it to me, to my personality, it would seem more like it's more stable that way. Because if I sold a bunch of books all at once, I'd be like, well, this won't last.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. I've got a number of writer friends in those two situations. So there'll be one friend who I'm helping, and she's just put out some fantasy books, and they're not selling crazy amounts, but she made profit in her first month of going full time.
Hmm.
So that's I said to her, that's a great result. So many people when they start businesses don't see profit for years. Before I was a writer, I had a web development company, and again with that, I didn't see any profit for like the first, I don't know, 2.5 years.
Hmm.
So it's any business takes a while to get going, and this is the same. It's all about production. It takes time to create a production. So to start with your first books and either break even or make even a dollar profit, you're on the upward trend. It might not
Right.
seem it at the time, but the very fact that you're not at minus money,
Right.
you're
That's
on
your
the right
success.
you're on the right track.
Right.
Because the vast majority of publishing houses make a loss on the books they put out. It's only the very top one to. I was talking to my agent. I think he said it was like the top 1 to 5% make
What?
most of the money. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's because it's like us. They don't necessarily know what works, so they'll
Oh,
look at trends, or you'll get these stupid editors who are very literary and they're actually working for genre presses, so they're very sneery about stuff. So they put out things that people don't want, and then they'll declare a genre dead, like, oh, no one's buying urban fantasy. But then from an
right.
indie point of view, there's people becoming millionaires writing urban
Right.
fantasy.
Right.
You know, so yeah, they just throw lots of stuff out and waits to see what sticks, and therefore the vast majority of books either don't earn out the advance or they don't even sell the initial print run. Hence why everything gets pulped.
Right. I actually
Yeah,
have a book that was traditionally published by a little tiny one, and it doesn't sell at all unless I go walk around and drag it around like in a wagon behind me and say, "Do you want this book? Do you want this book?" And then it will sell because
yeah,
they're like, "Oh, you're nice. Sure, here's $10." But other than that, it doesn't sell at all.
yeah. No, the same here. I've got a couple of small press books, and yeah, I think their rankings like 500,000 or something crazy.
Yeah.
And
Uh-huh.
it's just but I can't blame them because once a publisher puts out a book and they put their marketing behind it and they've put their resources behind it. Unless it sells, they're not going to be incentivized to keep pushing it because
Right.
they've got another book they can try. Because for them, every book is a lottery ticket, and it might be the one that sticks.
Right.
So they're not motivated to promote your backlist. If it's not selling, it's kind of tough. But that's the beauty of what we're doing, and that's what I come back to production, is that when you're building your back catalogue, it doesn't matter if it's not selling now. It can sell in the future.
That's what I
Um,
love about it. Yes. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But yes, I agree. That's the fun part.
yeah, definitely, and it can get you down. Don't get me wrong. It's like, when you're writing books and not selling, it does affect your motivation. And I can probably talk a little bit about the psychology of that, because I've kind of gone through lots of different mini meltdowns over the years.
Yes,
And
I would love to talk about that.
sure, yeah, no, we'll cover that definitely. I forgot what I was going to say now. I lost my train of thought. Sorry.
Sorry. I'm gonna start singing the Jeopardy music. Yeah, no, once I figured out that there was a point to writing more books, even though your series isn't selling, as long as you're not jumping all over the place and you complete it. Like, only recently did I discover that. And I was like, oh, so there's a point to it, even though I'm not making money, because I will in the future. So I just kind of keep plugging along.
Right, yeah, that's the point I was going to make. Yeah, was that Codebreakers didn't sell hardly anything at all for 2 years.
And is that just
Um,
the one book?
no, that was when I had like 3 books out and a prequel novella.
Oh, wow, okay.
They were selling something, but it wasn't a lot. I don't have the figures at hand because basically, I scrapped all the figures I had for the previous few years. So these
Right.
days I track from 2014 onwards. But yeah, back in 2012, 2013, I think I'd be lucky to sell maybe 30 or 40 books a month. You know,
Okay, so that's kind of where I'm doing like anywhere from 1 to 5 a day. And
that's pretty good.
I'm
I would have.
like, I'm still excited about it because I'm like, well, it's not a zero.
No, exactly. Getting regular sales like that is really hard. No, if you think about it, there's like 3.5 million books on Kindle, and 1 to 5 copies is what, I don't know, 50,000 rank, something like that.
I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know how that stuff works.
yeah, it's fairly low rank. But of course, we look and go, oh wow, there's like 50,000 odd books selling more than me. And you think, wow, that's a lot. My books are doing poorly. But then when you look the other way, you think, oh, actually, there's 3.25 million books that are selling worse.
Oh,
So
yeah,
that kind of
that's
puts it
true.
into perspective. So 1 to 5 copies a day, it might not sound a lot, but at least it's something, it's regular. And then when you start to build your catalogue, that's when it starts to, add up to full-time income. And
Right.
that's kind of what I saw when I put the third Codebreakers book out, and then the fourth one was a couple of months after. I started to do a lot more promotion because, there's no point trying to flog one book, because even if you drive lots of readers to it, where are they going to go?
Right. And I didn't know that either. When did you realize that?
Ah,
Did someone have to tell you that, or did you just scratch your head and go, why isn't this one book selling?
yeah, no, I had a couple of friends. I got started talking to some more successful authors, and yeah, I was like, what should I be doing? I'm trying to promote this book. I'm trying to get people into it, and they're like, forget it, just write the next one. You know,
Right.
and even if you do good marketing, what's the point? They're going to come read that book. And they go, oh, that was a really cool book. I want the next one. Oh, there isn't one,
Right.
and chances are you've lost that reader. They're going to forget who you are, because they've got Candy Crush to play and Breaking
Right.
Bad to watch on the telly and some cat videos.
Right, right, right.
Because ultimately that's what we're competing against. We're competing against cats. Um,
Yes.
so if you don't grab their attention, they're gone. You'll get a few sign up to your main list, but it's a very small number to the
Right.
overall amount of people who read or look at your books. So yeah, it was about when I had 3 to 4 books out, and then I started to see some sell through. So it's that whole funnel idea. So you basically make the first book either low cost or free, and you get them into it, and then they'll start to trickle through the rest of your series. And obviously, the more people you funnel in the front end, the more of them that will go through the series, and that's where you get your regular money from. So
I can
yeah,
see that.
yeah, it's great. And it's a really easy system. It takes commitment because, as I say, if you put a book out and it doesn't sell well, you're like, oh man, I don't really want to commit to writing another 2 or 3 of these
Right.
books, because if nobody wants it, I'm just going to waste my time.
Or you think that you're bad at it. Like, I thought I was bad at it at first, and
Mhm.
whether I am or not isn't really for me to decide. If it's that bad, then people will be like, "This is crap." But everybody likes it so far. Just like have more people like it.
Hmm. Well, the whole good thing is very subjective. It's there's a few objective things you can apply to assessing the quality of a book, but beyond that, it is very subjective. Like I see some huge bestsellers, like literally selling millions of copies, and I
Yes,
read them. I'm like, wow, why is everyone buying this book? It's
right.
awful.
It's awful, right? I can
um,
think of one in particular. Yes.
yeah, there's quite a few, and I'm
Yes.
just like, why are these books selling? It's demonstrably bad.
Yeah.
It's but that's the readership. You can't. It's hard to second guess them. So you kind of got to be true to yourself, and
Yeah.
obviously you want to improve your craft as much as you can.
Yeah, and I like what Darren was saying. I don't remember on Tuesday, whenever that was. Um, and he was saying if it's not as good as it can be, you can go back and fix it later. Like
Absolutely.
go back and revise the first book or whatever.
Hmm.
I thought that
Yeah,
was I didn't even think of it.
yeah. It's very easy to do. Obviously back in the day when it went through the traditional publishers, that's it. Once it goes out, you're done.
Hmm.
But yeah, these days it's especially if hardly anyone's bought it, you can change it to whatever you like.
Hmm.
I've done that with the first Codebreakers book, and it was quite short. It was only ever supposed to be a 12,000 word novella, and I wrote it for a publisher, and they rejected it. But I liked the story enough that I thought I'm going to continue the story. I'm going to expand it because the one of the criticisms for the publisher was that the story was too big for the word count that I tried to fit it in, and it was all a bit rushed.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's a
so I was like,
pretty
okay,
cool
yeah,
criticism. I like that.
yeah, it was a pretty handy criticism because, like, actually, yeah, that makes sense. I'm trying to do too much in the space in which I'm trying to do it in, so
Mhm.
it makes sense to expand it out. But I still made mistakes in the pacing and the size. It was too short. So after the third book was out, and obviously I was starting to get the reviews coming in, and people saying, "Oh, I really like the first one, but it's too quick," or there wasn't enough information in the world because I kind of focused on the characters rather than the world.
Mhm.
So as I was starting to get that feedback, I was like, "Oh, fair enough. Nothing stopping me from going back and changing it."
Right.
So
And you
yeah,
literally just re-upload it.
yeah,
That's
I just I added like 20,000 words to it. I added a new ending. I put lots more detail into it, and just re-uploaded it. And the nice thing with Amazon, if you email your KDP support people and you tell them that there's a new version and you want the people who've bought it to get the updated version, depending on the level of changes, they'll actually email all those readers to tell them there's an updated version to download.
that was going to be my next question, and that was an even better answer than I was expecting. That's pretty cool.
Okay. Yeah, mind reading is a skill that I've developed over the last few
Right.
weeks.
Doo 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 doo. We are more alike than we anticipated. Yeah.
But yeah, no, that was really helpful to me, and I actually got a lot of really positive feedback. A lot of the readers liked the fact that there was an updated version, even the ones that liked it as it was. I got quite a few emails to say, oh, even though I enjoyed the first version, I read the second version and I like the new additions, and I'm going to go ahead and read the second book now. So it
Yay,
kind of
that's
worked. It
good.
almost as a little prompt to remind them that there was more books in the series to read.
That is so neat. Good job, you. I like that. So after the Code Breakers, you said you took a break after the third book, is that right?
Yeah, I was really stupid.
I like this part of the story.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I've been stupid all the time. Like even up to this year, I've been stupid, making wrong decisions. Um, but that's something we can cover in a bit. But yeah, so instead of finishing the series, uh, I wanted to kind of do something a bit what I thought was better. Because Codebreakers is it's a cyberpunk story, and it's a little bit pulpy. Even though it covers some like really serious themes, that I don't present it necessarily in a serious way.
Right.
There's some kind of schlocky violence and a little bit of kind of over the top action,
Mm.
alongside all the more kind of literary themes in there. And I kind of wanted to stretch myself a little bit and do something that wasn't as pulpy. And I really like good quality kind of speculative fiction. And I had all these ideas, like the high concept ideas, which weren't really going to fit into a series. And so that's why I wrote Salt. Because I kind of like post-apocalyptic stories, but I don't like all the zombie stuff and all the military stuff. I know that's got like a huge following, but for me, it's just a little bit too generic for me. I like it more kind of singular, high concept ideas.
Hmm.
And so I thought, okay, I'll do this story because post-apocalyptic was selling really well. And this was after I met with Darren, and we started writing together because he had his post-apocalyptic book, excuse me, First Activation,
Hmm.
which was doing really well. And I was thinking, okay, maybe I should come out of cyberpunk because it's a very small niche, and it's got quite a low ceiling. So if I want to increase my earnings, I probably should go into a field that's got a bigger readership.
Right.
And that's what I did with Salt, and then that done really well, and then I finished Codebreakers after that. So I kind of made two mistakes. One, I should have finished Codebreakers first, and the second mistake was I didn't follow Salt up. So once I put Salt out, I then went back and finished Codebreakers. So it's like, the
That was
reader's like, oh, where's the next Codebreakers book? It's like, oh, tough, here's
Oh
Salt. You
yeah.
read Salt, and they're like, this is great, when's the next one? Screw you, here's Codebreakers. It's just like, oh, that was stupid.
But when you say it did well, like I was saying earlier, Salt has 259 reviews. So, like, and then let's see, Codebreakers Alpha has 621. So when you say it's doing well, like it's doing well, why did you not just hide in a hole for like 3 weeks and write 5 more books? Did you get
Because I'm
distracted?
stupid. That's right, 'cause I'm stupid. Because I wasn't hanging around with lots of successful indies at the time. And I was still trying to find my way in terms of the writing process. Because I've always written individual books. I come very much from like the Philip K. Dick and Ray Bradbury school of thought, in that each story is like a high concept and you explore that high concept. I've never really tackled like the long series, even though that's the most sensible approach. So yeah, I was a bit stupid, and I didn't really kind of glom onto that because I wasn't talking to a lot of successful indies at the time, and I wasn't really into forums and such like. Because I'm kind of introverted. I don't really do a lot of networking, so yeah, I was probably a little bit stubborn and had kind of my head in the sand, not really paying attention. And it was only as I was working more with Darren and I started talking with other indies, people like Mimi and yourself and the SPRT came, and my network grew, and I started to meet these other more successful indies, and I started to see some patterns emerge. It's like, okay, I should have focused on a singular series to begin with, rather than jumping around.
Yeah, for all the noise because SPRT was the first time I decided to do anything with writing, and I just decided one day, like, I'm going to write the second book in this series that I, like, started forever ago. I just wrote a book. And then years later, I was like, I think I want to be a writer now. And so I looked up, like, self-publishing help, and this show came up. And for all the noise that I heard on all of the shows, like, some of the same things kept coming through, like, do a series and just keep writing and, network. And so they were like, oh, do an email list, that was one, and do advertise, at least at some point. And I was like, oh, okay, but I have to hear it 40 times before I do it. So months and months later, I was like, okay, I'll write another book now.
I was exactly the same. It sounds like really easy advice to follow, and it's the same advice I give to other people. It's like a series is easy in that you're guaranteed a sum of money, and it's easy to promote, once you get that first funnel. Whereas standalones, they can potentially break out, but it's a lot riskier. So it's always good if you want to get some guaranteed money coming in, then a series is kind of a safe option. And it also gets you experience with the whole self-publishing thing, how to do the covers, the formatting, the uploading, how all the marketing works. And that's kind of why, coming back to something we were talking about earlier, was that you don't have to sell your book straight away. Like the Codebreakers didn't sell straight away. Whereas now they're selling quite regularly. The ranks are not super high. Like when you look at them on the day-to-day, they kind of average between 20 and 50,000. So they're not selling mega loads. But because there's 5 of them, and because I do book bubs and other regular promotions, I get like waves. So every sort of 2 or 3 months, when I start to kind of fill that funnel up, I get another chunk of money coming in. So over the course of the year, it becomes very regular. So it doesn't really matter if your book's not selling now. Once your series is complete, or at least it's got X amount of titles in it to make it worthwhile, and then you start doing some promotion on it. That's when it starts to filter in the money. So if you put a book out and it doesn't sell now, it doesn't really matter. As self-publishers, we can put a new cover on it. You can retitle it. You can put a new blurb on there. You can change the opening. There's always things you can do to kind of push that book out again. Like for instance, if you're managing your production, like we were saying earlier,
Hmm.
and you're not really selling many of those books because they might not be in a trend. You don't know what the trend's going to be in 6 months or a year's time.
Right.
It's like at the moment now it's all wear shifters and all this kind of stuff, but that wasn't a huge thing 8 months ago, and then last year it was all new adult,
Mhm.
and these trends come and go. So if you're writing things that are not selling now, who knows what the trend's going to be in a couple of years' time, and then you can just re-promote them.
Right. I got on a Sorry, I decided to start choking all of a sudden. I decided after I wrote the second book that when I was listening to the roundtable discussions, everyone was talking about book bubs there for like 6 episodes in a row, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to have a book bub or I'm never going to be a writer. But I only had 2 books out. And so, like I said, it wasn't until recently I started listening to smart people that told me you're not there yet. That's not that's not where you're at. Just keep going. Finish the series.
Yeah, because you might well get the book bub if you apply to them, but then you're not really going to see a lot of benefit from it.
Right, because there's nowhere for them to go.
Yeah, exactly. As a very quick example, 2013 no, sorry, 2014, February was my first book bub with the Code Breakers series,
Hmm.
and that was when I had 3 of them out. And I had the covers weren't as good, and the titles were bad as well. They were originally called, the series was called The Text Assist, which is
I
impossible for most
remember,
people to
yes,
remember.
yes, I
Yeah, they're
remember that.
horrible. Yeah, the titles are really convoluted. Like the first one was Artificial Evil, the next one was Assembly Code,
Uh-huh.
Annihilation Point. People couldn't remember them, and so yeah, I changed all the branding. But anyway, back then the branding was the old stuff, and I had a book bub on the first book, and I think I had something like 20,000 downloads. It was a free run.
Hmm.
I had 20,000 downloads. And I think I made about £1,500 off the sell through,
Hmm.
and I thought that was really good. I was like, wow,
How
I
much
think you
was
get.
the ad?
Oh, back then it was really cheap. It was like $90.
Oh wow, they've
Yeah.
gone up recently. I only know because I was looking like an idiot.
It seems to me they go up like weekly. Every time I look at them, it's even more expensive. But the sci-fi is kind of a smallish category, so it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that made about $1,500. Sorry, £1,500. What's what? $2,500, $2,000, something like that.
Hmm.
And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. But then 6 months later, when I run it again, and I had the whole series done, I had the new branding with the new titles. The difference was almost double. So I had like 50,000 downloads. I made like £3,500.
What?
Um, yeah, and it was like, wow, that's a huge difference. And the only difference was the series was finished, and I changed the titles.
So do
And
they go to the page? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt again.
no, no, sorry, go on.
Do they go to the page and see that there's more books in it, and then that helps them decide to buy it? Is that?
I think so. Yeah, I think the new cover and the title helped, so the conversion rate of the downloads went
Hmm.
up, hence going
Okay.
from 20,000 to 50. But I think yeah, once they were into the series and they were looking at all the blurb information and the back matter, because I changed the back matter, is that yeah, I said this, there's 4 books in this series plus the prequel.
Yeah, and
It's
people love to get invested in stuff, so.
Yeah, you know what, and that's something I kind of discovered at that point was that when I had the first book on this free run, I gave away the prequel for free as well in the back. And
Oh, that's
yeah,
a
so
good idea.
because you can't really sell novellas, no one really cares about them, and you just sell them for
Right.
like 99 cents. So I thought I might as well just give it away as an incentive. And I think what happens is that because they've spent time reading the first novel, and then they read the prequel, and by then I think they've spent enough time in that series that they're a lot more invested in it. So the conversion rate to the second book is a lot higher because they've just spent longer with the characters and they've read 2 stories.
Yeah,
Whereas if you read just one story, they might be on the fence. They might be like, oh, it was all right, but I don't really want to read on. But because
right.
they get some free stuff and they read it and they're like, oh, that's cool. I've read 2 stories, and I think the percentage of people that are more inclined to go through the rest of the series is much higher.
I thought about writing a prequel at this point because I'm shooting for 5 books and then a short whatever on the end, in the middle, a prequel. I don't know. Somebody will tell me where it goes. Um, but I thought about writing one of those just real fast. How long do those have to be?
I don't think there's any set guidelines. I think it has to be a complete story, um, and I think I'd probably suggest not have it be like in a critical plot line, so that they can read it as a standalone, so it doesn't affect the rest of the books. It's just like an added extra.
Okay.
Um,
Like someone's backstory or something?
yeah, that works well. That's what my prequel is. It takes two of the main characters from the series, and it shows you like an adventure or a mission that they carried out before the events of the first book.
Okay.
So you can read it at any period throughout the series, and it's not going to spoil anything. Um,
Very
but it's a
good.
standalone story.
Okay. And they get that for free when they sign up for your thing, or do they just get it?
I use it in lots of different ways. I use it as an incentive to sign up to my mailing list. I have another kind of novella which is a completely different world, completely different story called The Daedalus Code. Again, it was just a fun thing that I wanted to write. No one really buys it. But it's just something to give to people to sign up to the mailing list and gives them a sample of my work. So I give the prequel away, The Daedalus Code, and then the first book to the Code Breakers.
I was just looking for
Um,
the Daedalus code. Oh, I see it.
yeah, that sells maybe like, I don't know, 5 to 10 copies a month or something.
Uh-huh. For the
But
people that want it.
yeah, the people who want to buy it separately tend to pick it up after the Codebreaker series. But yeah, I tend to give it away as a main list sign-up incentive, and yeah, people do enjoy it. But it's not one of those stories that's going to make any money. But it was kind of it's a good way to bring people into my world. So
Mhm.
although I wouldn't recommend writing novellas to make money, I think they're kind of cool to do as main list sign-up incentives and review incentives and things like that.
That's one of the things that are repeated, like I can't think of what I'm trying to say, but like the few pointers that I keep hearing over and over, that's one of them.
Hmm.
is to do that. That way you can use it any which way you need to in the future.
Yeah, I'm super glad I wrote those. They don't take very long. As I say, you don't write them to make money. It's more of a marketing thing, and it's just something cool to share with your readers. It's something extra for them to remember you by.
Hmm.
And it's a differentiator. So they might go and read a book by Joe Bloggs and go, "Oh, that was kind of a cool book." But then when they read yours and they get something else for it, it's like, "Oh, wow, this person's cool. They've given me something extra."
Right.
You know. And if it's a well-written story, then it's just another way for them or for you to kind of get into their brain and for them to go, oh wow, this guy's really cool.
Yeah, right. Well, I can tell them that.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm trying to figure out timeline while you're talking where this critical path and critical dawn came in. And I know I said those backwards, sorry.
That's right. Well, they came in at the end of the middle of 2014 and the end of 2014.
Hmm.
So the actual timeline was once I'd finished as I was finishing Codebreakers, I met Darren Weymouth and we got chatting and we had a lot of the same ideas for stories. We liked a lot of the same authors, and then Darren proposed that we write together because he co-written with his brother. And I was like, I'll give it a shot. I'm always up for experiments. And so we wrote Sequence, which was a tech thriller. We started that at the end of 2013. We wrote it throughout the early part of 2014. And then we gave it to our agent and we waited for a year and nothing happened. But that was
Really?
cool. Yeah,
That's the
yeah.
one that just came out.
Yeah, exactly. We wrote that because it was kind of more commercial than the stuff we normally do. Like, because both of us, we kind of write sci-fi and post-apocalyptic stuff.
Hmm.
And this was more of a sort of a mainstream commercial tech thriller. So we gave it to the agent knowing that it probably was going to be out for a long time, like on submission and waiting for people to look at it. So it
Okay.
was just kind of okay, this one's for him, and then Critical Dawn will be for us
Oh, okay.
as
And
a
that
self.
did really well.
Yeah. It's probably my most successful book out of my catalogue. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it done really well. But again, we were stupid because we didn't follow it up quick enough. We put that out in July 2014, and
Yeah.
then we kind of was just dicking around with our own stuff and whatever else, trying different things.
I wondered why you didn't put another one out super quickly,
Yeah,
but same reasons I didn't, so.
yeah. If I had a DeLorean, I'd go back and smack myself upside the head.
It,
Instead of following it up, I was putting out Soul, and then I finished the Codebreakers series off with the fourth book.
So you were
And
doing
then,
part of it, right? You were doing the I have to keep writing part, right? It's just sometimes we do things in the wrong order.
yeah, and I
All in
really
the
struggle with
execution.
order. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've driven people mad over the last 3 or 4 months. I'm trying to work out a schedule and trying to get all my kind of ducks in a row, but I don't know. I have a lot of self doubt, and I worry that I'll be going into the wrong thing. Putting my energies into the wrong place.
I don't know what that's like. No, wait, I do.
It's difficult, because it's like I don't know. It's trying to be in publishing is almost like trying to tell the future. You're thinking, we know series works. There's a safe way to make some money.
Hmm.
So ideally, you want to commit to at least 3 books, but then that's a lot of time. That's at
Yeah.
least 6 to 12 or 6 to 7 months. And it's like if I put 6 to 7 months of effort into something that's not going to sell, I'll be really annoyed with myself.
Yes, and we're banking on
Hindsight.
ourselves, and that's like, for introverts, that's not cool.
No, exactly. And so, yeah, there's always that self doubt of what to go in. You can follow the trends and probably guarantee a certain amount. Um, I'm not a fan of writing to trends because most of the trends I just don't like. It's always the romance stuff because romance is just so huge. There's just so many readers in romance that the trends in that are crazy.
Yeah,
But
I
I kind of
tried writing the
refuse.
romance. It didn't work.
Yeah, it's tough. It's even I tried. It was
I know.
awful.
It's not, just literally not everyone can do it. I thought everyone could do it, but no.
No, that's the thing though, isn't it? It's like a lot of indies will say, "Oh yeah, you just follow a trend, and just pump out loads of books." But I,
Nope.
for me personally, unless I'm invested in that story, I can't write it. I wish I had that mind to kind of blank out my opinions of it and just pump out the words and put out good stories into anything because I'll be
Yeah.
driving Ferraris by now. But
Right. And
I
some
just
people
can't
are
do it.
really good at it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying other people do it and it sucks. They're really good at it, and I'm very jealous. I just haven't, that part of
hmm
my brain is not activated.
Oh no, I'm exactly the same. I've got the utmost respect for people who can trend chase and do that because to me that's such a hard skill to do. Um, it requires a lot of drive and a lot of analysis and the ability to be able to write something that you don't like. That's really tough. I can't do that. I have to be invested in what I'm writing. Um,
Yeah, I'm not sure what I'm gonna do after this series because I'm writing about mommies, and I'm
mhm.
like, I literally don't care about anything else. What am I gonna do? I just write 40 books in this series because I really like it. I
Yeah,
don't know where to go.
to me that's been my hardest choice, and that's kind of been at the root of kind of my little mini meltdowns over the last few years. It's like, just what the hell do I do? Where do I
Mm.
put my flag in the sand and say, right, this is me. This
Right.
is what I'm writing because I've got very disparate tastes. I like lots of different things, and a lot of things I like don't really sell. There's not really
Right.
commercials, so it's like, okay, I've got to be realistic. I need to choose something that one, I enjoy it, and B, does actually have a potential to be successful. Because
Right.
we've got mortgages to pay and bills to pay, and I kind of like food. Um,
Right.
so it's a really difficult decision, and I kind of envy those people who have very little imagination in terms of they've got like one thing they want to write. It's like there's a couple of authors out there. I won't name them because it sounds disrespectful, but I don't mean it to be.
Right,
Um,
right.
but all they want is just they've got one series and they've got one story to tell, and that's it. They've got no interest in anything else, and they just pump out the books in that one series,
Hmm.
and it's huge. Like every time they put a book out, it like launches into the top 10 on Amazon. They make like
Yes.
20, 30 grand in the first week, and I'm just like,
Yes.
wow, I'd love to have had that ability to stay focused, and write a 10-book series in one thing
Yes,
without
I
getting
just
bored
thought
of
of 5 people that were exactly like that.
it. Yeah, and again, I think that's a kind of a skill. Although, as I say, it's probably disrespectful for me to say that it's a lack of imagination. I'm sure it's not. I think the way I mean it is, it's they're not easily distracted. They've got that really kind of hyper focus that they're
Yes.
happy to just stay in that one world and
Or
just flesh
maybe
it
they
out.
just really like money and they're like, well, it works. If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah, it could
Just
be.
keep going.
Because yeah, there is pressure with that, and that's what I had with the Code Breakers. I was like, okay, I'm kind of bored of this now. I've told the story I wanted to tell
Hmm.
with the book four and the prequel. I didn't really want to take it on any further. There was just nowhere else for the story to go in my mind. I'd set out. with a mission, and I completed it, and I was like, right, that's done. But people
Right.
still want more, and they're like, oh, I love the world, we want more stories. I'm like, there isn't any more to tell. And if I start
I'd
trying to
really
do,
be reaching for it.
yeah, exactly, I'd be reaching for it, and the product wouldn't be good. I wouldn't be into it, and I'd be kind of artificially stretching plot lines, and
Hmm.
it'd be a horrible Game of Thrones style mess. And
And people would still buy it.
yeah, but I don't know though, because I think if you put out bad because that's the other thing I was going to come to is quality. So
Yes.
you focus on your production, but also you want your production to be good. Because Darren hit on this in your interview, and he was absolutely right, and this is something we've talked about a lot, is that terrible advice of just keep writing.
Hmm.
On its own, that statement is actually very damaging. It should be keep writing, but improve as you go.
Yes.
Make every book better than the last.
Yes. Yes.
Because if your series is made up of say 10 books and they're all crap, it doesn't matter how much people you put into that funnel, they're not going to go on. They'll read the first two and go, wow, this is dreck, I'm not reading anymore.
Right.
You've got to try and make every book better than the last to keep them moving through.
Yeah, I almost spit out my tea just now. Yes, that's very true. And I was trying to ask Darren, how do you know if they're crap? And he said it will come through in the reviews.
Mm-hmm. There are
So
other ways too. Personally, I think that's a very risky approach.
it is risky, yes.
Yeah. Darren done that, and to be fair, it worked out really well for him. He made a career off it with his first book. So yeah, he got his reviews for that and kind of told him some of the things he could work on or whatever. But it also sold an absolute crap ton of copies.
Hmm.
So although some of the reviews told him where he might improve, it wasn't that bad because he sold a load of copies and he
Right.
got a publishing deal, and now he's a full-time writer. So for Darren, the risk definitely was worth it. But for others, if you put out a bad, I'm not saying his book was bad, by the way, but I'm saying if you do put out a bad book for your first one, because Darren had it edited, so it was of good quality before it went out. But I see a lot of people just kind of throwing up their first one without any editing, and it's
What I
not
did.
gonna. Yeah, we all make mistakes. This
Right.
isn't a personal attack on anyone. It's like I say, I've made so many mistakes. But one thing I noticed was when I was going through a much more rigorous editing process, the book sold better.
But you
Because
have to make money to be able to spend on the editing. And
you do.
you can't see me, but I'm making this horrible cringing face.
Or the other thing you do is you do what I did and kind of just sell your house, leave your job, break up with your mates, sell
I'll get
everything
right
you
on that.
own, and then live off savings for 3 years. That's the
I'll
other
get right
approach.
on that. I'll let my husband and all my children know.
Yeah, I'm sorry, family, but I need a career. Goodbye.
Right.
No, it's like mine was just a thing of circumstance. But yeah, I came out with a little bit of savings, and I hated my day job, so it was like, okay, well, screw that.
Mm.
This is what I'm going to go for, and it took 3 years to pay off. So again, it's a risk. But yeah, if you're trying to bootstrap, it is difficult because you do need to invest a certain amount of money up front and invest time. So in terms of knowing if you're good enough or if the books are good enough, writing groups are good for that. Courses are good for that.
What is that? What was the last one you said?
Courses, workshops.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know what that word was.
Oh, sorry.
It's
Yeah,
okay.
like when I first started writing seriously, how long ago was that now? It's like 15 years ago.
Mhm.
I've done a lot of short story workshops with a couple of universities and creative writing courses, studied for an English degree, and then I joined some fairly brutal writing groups. Um, so I was writing for about a decade before I actually put anything out. So although I can look back on it now and I still kind of cringe at some of the things and I see things that I could have done better, I
Mhm.
still had all those previous years of kind of training leading up to it. And so I had lots of feedback of what was good and what wasn't by that point. Um,
Wow.
you can do
I'm
that a lot quicker these days. So you don't have to go
That's
through that
true.
process.
I'm surprised that you went like to the workshops and stuff. I thought about joining a writing group and I was just so close to joining one here and I can't because I can't be around people because they make me nervous and so I was like, no, I can't do it. I'm just gonna stay in my hole and write more books and hope they're okay.
Yeah, well, mine were all online, so I didn't have to interact with people.
Oh, well, that's a win. Okay.
Yeah, because I'm super introverted. I'm not a fan of people generally.
Real, real life
Yeah,
people.
exactly. Yeah, real life people kind of make me anxious, but
Yeah.
no, most of this was all online. So yeah, I'd just write me stories. I'll send it to the tutor, and then she would mark it up and send back feedback and so on
Oh,
and so forth. And the writing group was like an online writing forum.
that's
And
pretty cool.
yeah, it was very good. I got very lucky actually. The people in that group were super nice, and a lot of them turned out to be people I published later on. So that was kind of cool.
Oh, very good.
But these days there's a lot more resources. Like 15 years ago, there wasn't really anything online as such. Whereas there's so many resources now. I'd recommend if people want a kind of really good tutor, check out David Farland. I can't remember his website. I think it's My Story Doctor.
Hmm.
Um,
We
I'll
can
do a
look
little
it up
search.
and put it in the comments.
Yeah, I think it's My Story Doctor. But David Farland, he was Brandon Sanderson's teacher and Stephanie Meyer's.
Nice. I was just thinking about Brandon Sanderson as you were talking.
Yeah, well, I was going to mention him actually in terms of
Hmm.
learning to to write well. He's got a really good YouTube channel.
I know. I've watched it. I love watching him.
Yeah, it's great. Those lectures he does. Yeah, I watch those, and I watch them quite often actually, just to
Hmm.
remind myself, because there's so much to keep in your head. Like when you're doing this, it's sometimes nice every few months just to have a little refresher, make sure that you're still, thinking about the right things.
Yeah,
But
and he's
yeah,
a
I'd
good
say
communicator too.
yeah, he's very good. And Writing Excuses, the podcast he does, that's good as well.
Hmm. And short and sweet. That one's pretty short.
Yeah, and they give you kind of actionable things to do, which is helpful. So if you
Hmm.
follow it like a course, so if you go way back and you start at the beginning and do their writing prompts after each one, you're seriously going to kind of speed up your progress.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I did with his YouTube things. I watched it with my friend, and being introverted, there was no way I was going to go sign up for a class, but it was in the college setting, and I was like, I'm going to school. It's great.
Yeah, it is cool. And I like that myself. I do like learning, but yeah, I don't like college settings
Right.
and having to go to them. Like iTunes is really good. They've got the iTunes University, and they've got courses from all over the world. And I've done some programming courses with the Harvard University, and it's all free. They just
I
upload
was
them and you do
going
them,
to
and
say, are those
it's
free?
amazing. Yeah,
I'll have to look at that.
yeah, iTunes U, I think it's called. They've got some creative writing ones on there when I looked last. And they're amazing. Like these are like top universities that you'd pay like tens of thousands of dollars to go to, and they've uploaded these courses for free.
And you don't have to take anything you don't need. I love that. You don't have
Exactly.
to
Yeah.
waste your time doing things that don't pertain to you.
Yeah. So these days, I think for new writers who want to try and get that early feedback, you don't have to risk your career by putting stuff out and having reviewers ding you for bad things. You can, do workshops. You can do these videos. You can do like writing groups on forums and stuff. So I
Right.
think it's super important to get that early feedback just to put you on the right path because um, when you start out and even where I am now, there's things that I don't know. So you
Yes.
have to have somebody more experienced to tell you the things that you don't know yet, so you can learn them.
Right.
Um,
You're
and
so
that, and that's
smart.
where, pardon?
You're so smart. I needed to hear all these things like a year ago.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I could have learned these things a lot sooner as well. As I say, like my self-publishing journey, I've only really made money in the last 2 out of 5 years.
Mm.
So in that respect, I'm kind of far behind the curve, but things are going well now. So it brings a little bit more perspective and hindsight, which we would all like at the beginning, but
Yes.
that's sort of part of the fun, I suppose.
Yeah, it's like I keep telling myself that it's like when I tell my kids, or when you tell a teenager, I promise you, blah, blah, blah. And they look you right in the face and they're like, no, I'm not, I have a better way of doing it. And you're like, all right, go on. Go on with your bad self. Figure it out. And, and then 10 years later, they're like, oh yeah, you were right.
Yeah, it's human nature. I'm exactly the same. If someone tells me something, I'm a skeptic. I like to base my decisions on evidence. I find it very hard to take advice on faith alone. So if someone says, "Oh, there's this technique, it's great, you should do it," and I'll be like, "Prove it to me." And the problem with the publishing
Right.
industry is it's really, really difficult to prove anything
Yes.
because it's just full of unknowns. So for someone like me who likes to work off logic, I drive myself crazy because I try to drill down and get some like concrete answers, and there's very few.
There aren't. That's what
Yeah,
I was looking for at the beginning was concrete. How do I do it? Draw me a map and I will follow it. Literally just tell me what to do and I'll do it. And it's totally different for everyone.
yeah, absolutely. Like if we go back before indie publishing was a thing, you talk to every author about how they made it. They've all got a different story.
Mhm.
Because it's like how to get agents and how to get publishing deals. Like, for instance, I recently got a deal with 47 North. I never thought I'd get a publishing deal because I just wasn't looking for one. I was quite happy to do the indie thing.
Mhm.
Whereas if somebody tried to, like, if their goal was to get a publishing deal, and they thought, okay, I've got to spend 3 years not making any money, and then 2 years making lots of stupid decisions, and then getting an agent by luck, and then getting a publishing deal by luck, that's not a wise strategy to follow.
Right.
Everyone has to kind of make their own path, so failure is a part of that. Um, and even if you go listen to some guys like Russell Blake or SM Rain, and these guys who give really good information and like proper legit advice that works,
Mhm.
you're still going to come at it a different way than they did.
Right.
And you're going to make different decisions, wrong decisions, correct ones,
Yes.
and your map is going to be very, very different. So you have to create your own map. Um,
Right. Because you might have more kids than they do, or you might have no kids, or you might have to work, or you might not have to work. You might just there's so many different factors.
Yeah, there really is, and all our brains are different. It's not like, okay, I can put on the Russell Blake head today and write for 12 hours, drink tequila,
Right.
and do what he does because Russell Blake's Russell Blake. Just like I can't do a Hugh Howey. It's like, oh, I'm going to write Wall today. I'm gonna do episodic serialized books with bad covers. And that's the
Yeah,
way
I
to.
think I'll just do this real quick, and it'll be huge, I promise. Yeah.
Yeah, so you can look at all these guys that and women as well that have been successful, and very few have got anything in common. Other
Mhm.
than they wrote a book that chimed with you.
Exactly. Exactly. Hold on one second. My son is. Oh, he was trying to break down the door just now. Speaking of children, um, that's my main reason for not getting more out is these little monsters. Okay, he's quiet now.
Yeah, so that's another thing I tell people. I'm kind of in a very privileged position as a writer in that I have very little family, no children. I have no commitments other than myself and to write. So for me, it's just a psychological battle. I don't have
Hmm.
physical interruptions and I don't have other commitments. It's just me versus my crazy mind.
Right.
Um,
It's
so
really complete. It's like night and day. I have a friend that doesn't have children, and he's like, "Well, why can't you write until 2 in the morning?" And I'm like, "Well, I can, but only one time.
yeah,
Like, I can't do that every night because I can't sleep until 10:30 or 11. But
yeah,
I can pull an all-nighter."
yeah, I really admire some of these romance authors, these women who are like holding down a family as well. They're
Yes.
looking after their husbands, they've got their kids. Some of them got health problems they're dealing with, and it's just like, how do you produce all that work?
Hmm.
With all that, all that stress. It's yeah, I couldn't do it.
And the answer to that question is different for each one of them because I talk to some of them and they're like, well, my husband makes enough money that I can just write the book and then pay for really great editing and then just after I write whatever, like it's out of my hands. I pay for everything else to be done. But then
Mhm.
another lady would be like, no, I have to do it all myself and I have to make my own covers and just I just respect all of these people. Anybody who's successful at doing it this, just however you had to get there, good job.
Yeah, totally. And it's not for me. It's not even a success thing. I think if somebody can put out a professional product, just one
Hmm.
book alone, it's so few people manage to do that.
That's
Like
true. That's true.
because we live in the days of NaNoWriMo and indie publishing, and
Hmm.
because we're kind of inside the bubble, it feels like it's a daily occurrence. Like, oh, everyone writes books, but they don't.
Right.
It's such a small percentage of people who ever get to the point of finishing a book, let alone publishing it. Um, and again, this comes back to the whole comparison thing. Um, yeah, try not to compare to other people because just the very fact that you've written a book and you've published it means you're like in the 1% of writers,
Yeah, all
and
my friends are like, I can't do that. I'm like,
yeah,
yes, you could. You would go crazy like me, but yes, you could do it.
yeah. So that's all I'd say to people. I think if they're feeling discouraged and they're at the beginning and they're trying to put work up, is to not just keep writing. Follow Darren's advice. Write and get feedback and get better, um, and just keep working and find your own path. Try lots of different things. See what works for you because there's no one way. Yeah, and just
Right.
keep going. It will happen eventually.
I used to have a thing on my desk that said just keep writing, and so after I talked to Darren, now it says just keep writing better.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I'll figure it out eventually.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm addicted to craft books. It's, even though I've been writing for a really long time and I've done all those courses and things, I still love picking up craft books because writing is an endless, it's got endless scope. And so even if I'll read like a 300-page craft book and I get one tip from it, for me that's kind of worth it, because it's like another little level up. And so I'd say, yeah, invest in good quality craft books, read lots of good quality books.
That's
Um,
where we differ. I actually don't have the patience to sit down because I have so little time anyway to sit down and read craft books all the time. So that's a chore for me to find one and sit down and read it in hopes of gleaning one tip from it. I'm
yeah,
like,
no,
oh, I
that's
haven't had
fair enough.
time.
Um, yeah, there's probably no real easy way around that other than to maybe try and get a few pages in every now and again,
Mhm.
or maybe just get some short story collections of really good writers and
Yeah,
just read a short story every day, and then
and
you
I
start.
love it. Oh, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. I also like the like for work for craft stuff. I like the people that have worksheets on their blogs, like the beat sheets and stuff. That way I can go, okay, well, at least I have an idea of what I'm supposed to do, rather than sitting down and trying to read a whole craft book.
Yeah, and because of the short form factor of blogging, there's you can probably do some Google search and find some good. Like a lot of people like Chuck Wendig's site for that. He does a lot of like how to write articles, and there's probably loads of others as well. I think Holly Lyle used to do them. I don't know if she's still got her blog. So they're kind of cool, because they're blog posts. They're only going to take you 5-10 minutes to read, and if you kind of read a few of those every week, it will just start to slowly drag you forward with new techniques and new ideas and things.
Yeah, send me the link to that because, and I'll put it in the comments because I actually haven't found that blog yet. It'll be
Okay.
on my list. Um, and I guess my son is trying to explode through the door, so we should probably wrap this up. It's like the Hulk, only not as cool and more annoying.
And I
And he
imagine a
gets,
little bit smaller.
yeah, it's a bit smaller, and he gets grounded afterwards. So, oh well, I appreciate you doing this so much. You made me feel better about where I'm at, just like Darren did. I feel confident that I'm at least in the game, I guess,
Yeah.
for lack of a better term.
No, you definitely are. Yeah, you're doing the right things. You just got to keep moving forward.
Man, I didn't believe Darren. I emailed him like every week last year, and I was like, "Are you sure? Are you sure I'm supposed to be doing? Are you sure?" And he never even broke stride. He was like, "Yep, just keep going. You'll be fine. You'll be fine.
Hmm.
You'll be fine." Over and over and over. I'm like, "Okay, but are you sure?"
Yeah, it's tough, but the way I look at it is it's a binary decision, isn't it? It's like if you want to be a writer, you kind of got to write. If you stop writing, you'll never be a writer. So you've only got one choice to keep going.
That's true. Yes, sir. Well, we appreciate it very much, and um, I'll add those links just in the comments after the guys post it to the site. And I hope that you have a very wonderful rest of the day, whatever time it is for you there. I have no idea.
5:15, so I'm gonna probably get a couple of chapters in and then enjoy my Friday evening with a nice cold beer.
Yay! And gross, but yay. All right, well, thank you so much.
Well, thanks for having me.
All right, bye.
All right, bye.